Hello, everyone. Good morning, good welcome, good afternoon, good evening, depending on where you are in the world. I know it's early on the West Coast, it's midday my time, and it's probably evening somewhere that you guys are probably watching this. So thank you for joining us. Let me get my chat window refreshed so I can see your comments and questions. And then we'll go ahead and kick things off for our creative kickoff. I know these creative kickoffs are supposed to be like, morning time, Pacific time for a kickoff, but for a lot of us, we've already started our days, and maybe this is your lunch break, maybe this is your dinner break. I don't know, whatever it is. We're going to show you some things you can do and also pay tribute to Black History Month, which has got 2 more days because of the, what's today, the 28th, I believe. Yeah, we got 1 more day because of the leap year. And I'm going to show you some techniques to create infographics. And that way you can use them for Black History Month, obviously, next time around, because we're almost done. But you can also use them in schools, classes, just information, and just show you some techniques in Photoshop for putting these kinds of graphics together. Typically, I'm doing things where I'm showing people how to edit photos. I'm not really doing a lot of graphic design and layout, but today I get to take a break from just editing photos and maybe play around with some design and layout. So with that said, let me just check everything over here. We're going to go ahead and switch over to my desktop. Oh, by the way, housekeeping. If you're watching this on YouTube, Facebook, X, LinkedIn, Twitch, cool, you can hang out in all those wonderful places. But if you want to participate in the main chat that is moderated by the wonderful Cody Bear, head over to b.net/Adobe Live, which I put up there. I always point the wrong way. Put up there. You guys can head over there and be in the main chat. All you need to do is log in with your Adobe ID or social media, whatever it is, and you can participate in the main chat there. All right, so let me just, I just see one more window I want to fix, and then we can go ahead and dive right into some Photoshop. All right, let me refresh this one window, which seems to be stuck on something that's not the chat. There we go. Got the chat up on that window as well. All right, so with that said, thanks for joining me from all over the world. I see your comments coming in from YouTube. I see your comments coming in from Adobe Live. Thank you for being here. Let's go ahead and dive right into today's topic. All right, so I'm going to switch over to my desktop, which I've got Photoshop running on my computer here. Yep, and what I'm going to do is start from scratch. So with Photoshop open, I know a lot of people like, I even heard a friend of mine talk about this welcome screen the other day. He's like, oh man, because he reset his preferences and the welcome screen came back. And he said, oh man, I can't wait to turn that back off. And I'm like, I like the welcome screen because it shows me my most recently used documents, including the ones I've been working on and testing. But it also lets me quickly get into Photoshop by clicking the little PS icon in the upper left corner. I've shown this tip a million times, but it never gets old because people still don't know. They think you have to create something or open something to get into Photoshop. You just click the PS icon and boom, you're right in Photoshop. All right, so now that we're in Photoshop, let's go ahead and create our first new, well, again, because normally we're opening a photo. So I'm going to go ahead and create a new document. Now, I just want to show you that I have 2 other things open besides Photoshop. I have a notes document open. This is where we're going to get our text from. And in my operating system in the Finder window, I have the photos we're going to pull in as well of the various historical figures. So these are public domain kind of photos. I do not own the copyright to these photos. These folks are long since gone, so I did not photograph them. And just keep in mind, I'm just making this point that if you are going to use other people's photos, make sure you either give credit or at least get permission, if you can do one or the other. All right, so with that said, let's go back to Photoshop. And in Photoshop, I'm going to go ahead and create a new document. And the new document, I've already done it once, so just so you know the size, this is again, it could be whatever size you want. It could be an 8.5 by 11 page. It could be a 5 by 7 photo print. It could be an 8 by 10. It could be whatever you decide it should be. I'm just giving you the standard infographic size because kind of everything does have a standard default size, even though you can make it whatever you want. So the standard default infographic size is 800 pixels by 2000 pixels. And I'm going to just leave it low res at 72 pixels per inch. But if I were going to have these printed, if I were making ones to be printed, then I would go ahead and bump it up to 300, at least pixels per inch. But you do, like for example, I'm doing these mostly for online, so they don't need to be super high res for online, for sharing online, for sharing on social media. All right, so 800 by 2000 pixels, 72 pixels per inch, and let's go ahead and create, and that'll get me into my nice long slender document. And now, next thing we're gonna do is we're gonna go ahead and fill that background with a solid black. So to do that, I'm gonna switch to black being my foreground color. And if you look over here in the left-hand corner, if you click the little black and white icon, that will default your colors to black and white once again. And that will make black on top. If black was on the bottom like it was, I can just use this little arrow to toggle the colors back and forth. So I just want black to be the foreground color for now. So now I'll just hold down my Option key on the Mac, my Alt key on Windows, and just hit Delete on Mac or Backspace on Windows, and that just tells it to take whatever that foreground color is, black in this case, and fill the canvas or selected area with that color. So in this case, we got our selected area. Now, I do want to point this out. I didn't like when the contextual taskbar first came out. I remember someone internally at Adobe made this comment, and I was like, I never saw that button. And it's because I've never paid attention to an empty canvas with nothing selected and the contextual taskbar at the same time. But the button I'm referring to is that if you don't have anything selected and you're just on an empty canvas, the contextual taskbar will give you an import image button. So that way, if you're starting with not a photo, you can go ahead and import a photo right in. So it's smart enough to know, hey, you don't really have anything but just a blank background. Do you want to bring something in? Yes, you can do it that way. We're not going to do it that way, but just wanted to show you that that's an option. Also, if you're using Creative Cloud libraries, you can drag things in from your libraries as well. But I'm going to show you, because that would mean that you planned ahead. I'm going to show you the method that if you didn't plan ahead, how you would build this on the fly. All right, so we didn't plan ahead. I'm going to start building the standard template, let's call it, for the background before we start bringing in the information about the historical figure. So I want to put Black History Month at the bottom. I also want to put some painterly look splashes at the bottom that were similar to the thumbnail I used for this video. And I thought, hey, those are kind of cool. Like I want to show people how to create a look like that. So I'm going to create 3 different layers for those 3 different colors. And that way I can move them around, I can change them, I can delete them if I don't like them, so forth and so on. So let's go ahead and create the first layer. I'm just going to click an empty layer, and we'll call that new layer, we'll call it red, because that's what's going to have on it. Red. We'll just call it red for now. All right, so now to get my red, I'm going to go to my foreground color. I'm just going to click, and I'm just going to go all the way up to red. In other words, this is red. So that's the red. That's as red as it gets. All right, so let's click OK, and that will give me my red as my foreground color. Now I want to paint, but I want those like if you were to take a paintbrush and just splatter it against the wall. I want that look. So typically, when you go to your paintbrush and you are using the default brush, which I'm not, but if you were using the default brush, general brushes, there we go. If you were using a regular soft round brush, and even if you make it smaller, oh, hang on, close that. There we go. Sorry. Here, let me just make it smaller this way. All right, we'll drop it down in size. And if I were to just start painting, I'm just going to get those round, kind of soft edge strokes, and that's what you would normally get with a paintbrush. Let's undo that. I want a cooler looking brush. So luckily, there's a whole series of brushes that are built into Photoshop, and a whole series of brushes you can go download and add to Photoshop, but that makes it even cooler. So I'm going to switch to my, not this panel, I'm going to switch to the one right next to it, this little folder with a brush on it, and that's your brush settings panel. So when I go to that brush settings panel, that will give me a tab for the settings that we were just in. So I chose a smaller round brush, and it's showing me a preview of it. And I'm going to switch over instead to the brushes panel. And on the brushes panel, this will show me all the brush categories I have. And you will have these first 4 categories. You will have general, dry, wet media brushes, and special effect brushes. You will not have, by default, watercolor. Where did I get all of these Kyle Webster watercolor brushes from? I downloaded them and added them to my Photoshop. So where do I go to get them? How do I download them? Well, if you go to the flyout menu for the brushes panel, you can say, literally, get more brushes. That's an option in the flyout. Get more brushes. And they're free. You don't have to pay for them. You just need to go ahead and do it. All right, so let's go ahead and say get more brushes. That'll take you to a web page where all the brushes are. Here they are. You can download the 2024 brushes, and I downloaded the watercolor ones. Now, that will download a file to your downloads folder, and it'll just be a brushes file, and you can either go back to Photoshop and import them, but it's just easier to drag that file that it downloads and drop it right on top of the Photoshop icon, and it will automatically install them. So that's where I got these watercolor brushes from. All right, so now that we know where the brushes came from, let me show you the difference, and I just want to point this out because I make this mistake all the time. I'm not in the watercolor ones because I want to show you what this looks like. I'm in the wet media for now. And let's say I like this wet media one. Oh man, that looks kind of cloudy and kind of cool. That looks like the splatter effects I want. I'm on red. I got the brush. I'm going to make the brush bigger. Cool. And I just start painting and nothing happens. Like I'm painting and nothing happens. And I did it twice and nothing happened. And it's because, and you'll be frustrated by this because that's not a paintbrush. That's a smudge tool. So if you look at the tiny icon at the top of each brush, it will tell you what tool that brush was made for. So that was a smudge brush. So that layer's empty. There's nothing to smudge. So I don't see anything. And so you got to pay attention and make sure the brush you're using has an actual paintbrush icon, not a smudge, not a mixer brush icon, but an actual paint icon. Otherwise, you'll just be, dragging your mouse or your stylus and nothing will be happening because that's not a paintbrush. So when you download the watercolor brushes, I believe these are all paint brushes, so you don't have that problem to worry about. So I scroll down to the bottom area, actually right about here. This is kind of that same look. And if I paint, oh, see, there we go. I get my cool looking watercolor splash. So let me undo it and kind of do it purposely. And I'm just going to go ahead and paint and kind of get that cool look to that. Okay, cool. I got my my watercolor effect in red and it looks great. And that's what I want. Now, of course, we can spend another 20 minutes tweaking that we don't have. So let's go ahead and go to the next layer. Next layer, and you can do them all on top of each other and they're watercolors and they'll blend in, but I want to keep them separate on purpose. So I'm going to go ahead and make a new layer. I'm going to call this one green. And same thing, we'll go ahead and get a green color and we'll go to green and we'll get the nice green for Black History Month kind of green. And there we go. And I can even pick a different one. I can not have strokes that are not exactly the same. That one's too plain. And let's go ahead and get maybe something like this one. Oh, I gotta look and see what kind of brush that is. Oh, I didn't pick green, by the way. Hold on. Or it switched to green, switched to a different color. Let's get the green. There we go. And let's use, you know what, for the sake of time, I'm just gonna go ahead and use the same one. All right, so there we go. We're on the green layer and we're just kind of blending that in. And great, we got our green. And now let's go ahead and do one more. And we'll call this new layer gold. All right, G-O-L-D. And we'll go ahead and get our gold color. And you can experiment with different brush types. But for the sake of time, since I only have 10 minutes left, we'll go ahead and do our just gold. There we go. And now we got our gold, red, and green. Now we're just going to go ahead and go to our next, or actually we don't have to go to a new layer. We're just going to grab our type tool. And we'll go ahead and drop in black. Hold on. Black History Month. And of course, it just remembered the last color I was on. So I'm going to go ahead and switch that color out to black. And great. And now we need to do some type work. It's in my last font, which was Adobe Clean. I want this in a heavier font. So I'm just going to type the word heavy into our, into our type box here, heavy. That will show me all the heavy fonts. And I kind of like Fat Frank Heavy. It's just always been one of my favorite heavy fonts. And I'm going to go ahead now, and I want to condense the line spacing. So I'm going to hold down my Option or Alt key. I'm going to hit my up arrow, and it just makes it all one line. Now I can hit my down arrow and control the leading separately for each line. And I'm just holding the down arrow and the Alt key until they're spaced enough apart, but not too far apart. Great. So now we'll get that, and that'll be my Black History Month. That'll go there. We'll grab our Move tool, and we'll move it in place, and we're good to go there. Next up, let's go ahead and we're going to go ahead and get our first figure. Let's go ahead and do that. So I'm going to go to my operating system. I'm going to grab Alexander Miles. And you might say, who's Alexander Miles? And there's Alexander Miles. We'll go ahead and drop him in. And we're going to go ahead and make Alexander Miles a little smaller. Because you got to remember, this is a big card. We're just zoomed way out on it. So we'll make him a little smaller. And we'll go ahead and next thing we'll do is we'll go ahead and get our text for this. So I'm going to go ahead and click my type tool once again. And it's going to remember the last thing I was in. So it's going to be black type. And I'll just go ahead and grab his name so I don't misspell it, mistype it. Don't do anything like that. Oh, crap. Oh, hold on. I was opening up a beta version of Photoshop there. Let's go ahead and click and paste and change the type color. We're just going to make it white for now. And there we go. We got our Alexander Miles in the same font. And we can just go ahead and scrub down the size until it fits. So I'm just grabbing the size and just dragging to the left. All right, great. We got our Alexander Miles in there. Next thing we want to do is we want to put our description in. And I want to put the description in a way that it's not just all one line all the way over. So I basically want to make a text frame. And to do that, you can just simply take your text tool and drag it to create a text area that you want to put that text in. So now that'll put some sample text in there. We'll go ahead and not make that Fat Frank Heavy because it's going to be our body type. We'll pick just a nice serif font. So I'll just do serif, and we'll do source sans serif variable light. All right, so now we've got our text there. We'll go ahead and make that a little smaller. There we go. And we'll change the leading from whatever I had set it to manually to auto. There we go. And then we'll, last but not least, go to our text document and, not Express. Go to our text document and we'll get the Alexander Miles type. There it is. Copy. Photoshop. And select all and paste. All right, so now that plus sign is letting me know there's more. So I'm going to just go ahead and I don't have more room, so I'm just going to go ahead and make my type smaller until it fits, till the plus sign goes away. So I'm using a keyboard shortcut, which is Command Shift less than symbol, or PC Control Shift less than symbol, which is next to the letter M on your US keyboard. All right, so now we got our text in there. And next thing we might want to do is we might want to now dress up that photo a little bit. We can also just quickly grab a border. Let's go ahead and let's get a little bit more goldy on our color. It's a little green. It's a little green. Something like that. Actually, I like the original color better. But anyway, we'll grab actually, you know what? We're just gonna make it red because I think red's my default anyway. We'll drop a border on there. That's a shape. So it's just a rectangular shape. And then you can control the size of the actual border itself. So I can go ahead and make that thicker, make it thinner. And that's a non-destructive shape. So we can always come back and tweak it. It's a vector shape as well. All right, so next, last but not least, let's go ahead and do a little bit with the photo. We got like 4 more minutes. So let's go back to our Alexander Miles photo. Let's go ahead and zoom up a little bit. And this is what Alexander Miles is famous for. He basically made the elevator doors automatic. They used to have to be always open manually. So there's your Black History Month tip for Alexander Miles. So his invention was an invention that would automatically close elevator doors using belts and gears and things like that. All right, but anyway, we go to this photo, and I kind of want to just dress it up a little bit instead of it just being a plain black photo here. So I'm going to do a couple things. I'm going to, first of all, just grab my rectangular marquee tool. I'm going to add a new layer, and I'm going to go ahead and just drag a layer out that is basically the size of the photo. And we'll go ahead and fill that layer with white. Boom. Okay, so now next thing we'll do, and this is going to be our matte. So we're just going to go ahead and pull in a little bit from that same selection, and we'll just pull in a little bit closer on the inside of it, and we'll just delete. So basically that creates a white matte around it. And you can make the matte, of course, whatever color you want. But that's not enough. I want to actually put kind of like a photo frame around it. So to put my photo frame around it, I'm going to go in and create a new layer. We'll call this, by the way, this one's matte, M-A-T-T-E, and we'll make a new layer. And the new layer will be our frame layer. And using the built-in filter for generating picture frames, we're going to go to Render, and we're going to go to Picture Frame. And when I go to Picture Frame, I like, by the way, there's like, I don't know, 20, 30 frames here. I like the art frame. The art frame looks like just a standard frame, and you can pick whatever color you want it to be. So you can make it whatever color you want. I'm just going to do standard black for now, and I know that might not look good yet on top of the black background, but trust me, I have a technique for that as well. So we'll just do a black frame, and that black frame came in and filled up kind of the whole canvas area. I'm going to Command T and hold down, this is one time I'm going to hold down the Shift key, because the Shift key is going to allow me to scale it unproportionally, because I want to basically make it fit this photo. So I'm going to hold down the Shift key so that it's not constraining the proportions, and I can put it just outside the matte area, just like that. And that'll give me a nice picture frame around Alexander Miles. Now, the other thing that will kind of give it a little bit of depth is to make the shadow inside the border of the matte area. So to do that, I'm just going to go back to Alexander's photo. I'm going to use the effects panel at the bottom there, the layers panel. I'm going to go to inner shadow. And in inner shadow, it's already put an inner shadow around it. I can make it bigger, make the distance not as big or less. I can also control the angle in which the shadow is coming from, something like that. And I can also control the size of it, meaning how blurry it is. So just to give the photo a little bit more depth. Now, if I want to control the frame color, because maybe I don't know what color I want the frame to be, I'll go to the frame layer and I'll drop in an adjustment layer. So we'll go ahead and do a solid color adjustment. And of course it picked, last solid color, or the foreground color, which was white. And let's say I want, just for the sake of example, I want that to be a green. All right, so we'll pick the green, and I get the green that I want. And now that I got the green that I want, we'll click OK, and we'll say, hey, I don't want a solid color that's the whole document. I want a solid color that's only the size of the frame, or limited to the frame, grouped with the frame. So I'll hold down my Option or Alt key, and here I'll zoom in so you can see this. As I point between the solid color and the frame layer, I hold down my Option and Alt key to constrain that solid green to just the frame. Now that just looks like a green rectangle until we change the blend mode. So we just change our blend mode. Darken will work. Multiply is a little off. Lighten kind of works. Screen is my favorite. So we'll just do a screen on that to make the frame whatever color we want. Now, if we want to change the color, we just go back to the adjustment layer and we pick a different color, like a gold, and now it's a gold. If we want a red, we go to the reds and we pick a red, and the frame, or burgundy, and the frame becomes that color. So that way you can quickly and easily change your colors of your frame based on the design. Okay, now that we've got this, and again, I'm already out of time, but I would go ahead and save out this. You would have saved this Photoshop document a long time ago. I'm going to save it as Alexander or Black History Month template. And once you save it as a Photoshop document, the next thing you would do is head over to Adobe Express, import it as a PSD, Photoshop document, and then you can share that template. This is a previous version. You can share that template with others so that they can put their own graphics in, their own text in, their own historical figures in. All right, with that said, I'm out of time. Cheers, everyone. Thanks for watching, and we will catch you on the next one. Bye, everybody.